Hi everyone, welcome to Module 6, Clarifying Relationship Discussions. As usual, I want to make a short video that not only explains what your assignment is going to be looking for, what you should be doing for your discussion, but also go a little bit over what those SRS are, what you should be trying to show in your examples, as well as show you an example of how I do this in one of my courses. So to dive in, first steps first, you should be taking some time reviewing those QM learning materials and taking a look at the actual SRS from your QM rubric guide that you were provided. First, you're going to be looking at 2.4, which is looking at the relationship between learning objectives or competencies and the learning activities is clearly stated. So that's looking for, do you explain the relationship between the learning objectives, what students are going to be able to do when they are successful or complete your course or the module, and how those are connected to the learning activities. And activities in this case can either be graded or ungraded course activities, assessments, so that could be anything from discussions, written papers, quizzes, anything like that. So just explaining how doing this activity will help you be successful to meet those objectives stated at the module and or course level. And then of course 4.2 is also looking at, again, relationships, and we're looking at the relationship between the use of the instructional materials, so videos, readings, podcasts, infographics, anything that you're using as a part of your learning materials section. What is the relationship between those materials and completing the learning activities, and is that clearly stated? Of course, the SRS annotations go into a little bit deeper about what they're looking for. Frequently, they're looking for this to be explicitly stated to students, but there's a couple ways you can kind of go about that personally I would say are more implicit than like explicit, but I'll show you a couple ways that I do that. Moving on to the post that you're going to be making, there's two parts to your post. There's really two questions that you're going to be responding to. The first one is, do you state the relationship between objectives and learning activities in your course? If so, which method are you using? So course map, module or unit introductory page, numbering system, graphic display, whatever that is. So tell us a little bit about how you're doing that, and then also show us, if you can, an example of how you're doing that. So a screenshot, a video, anything you want to provide to kind of support what you're stating in your kind of narrative format that you'll be posting. In your course, if you're not currently doing this, if you're not stating that relationship or you don't have one of those items, just let us know what method you'd like to use in your course moving forward, which one you think would best be suited for your students, for your program, whatever that looks like. And then the second part is going to be, are you clearly explaining or are you currently rather explaining the relationship between the use of your materials and completing the learning activities? If so, how are you doing that? Again, sharing any sort of documentation you have to support your explanation of what you're doing. I do think it's best, like, seeing is better than telling in some of these instances. It can be really helpful for your peers to see what you're doing. And then, of course, if you're not doing that, again, how will you do that moving forward? And this is a great thing to include in your course improvement plan later in the course, so keep that in mind as you're going about this. And then of course you are going to want to read your peers' responses of what they're doing in their course, making sure that your response to your peer is not just a, hey, great job, love what you're doing, beautiful work, but really diving into maybe not critiquing, but providing feedback. Like, what are they doing really well? What do you like about what they're doing? How does that relate to the annotations? What do you see from their course that is supported by the annotations in terms of what they're doing well? And then can you take an example from the annotations to give them feedback on how they could further improve? So again, getting at those strengths of what they're doing and providing a recommendation. As always, I just want to point out that you'll want to take a look at the rubric, which you can access by going up here and then going to show rubric. And this is going to let you know a little bit about what we're looking for when we're grading your posts as they come in. So again, those three main points here. Are you answering related to 2.4 and 4.2? And then how is your contribution to the learning community? So to get on over to the example that I want to show you guys, I'm still using my English 101 course. For this course, we do a couple things. First, what we do for meeting 2.4 is we actually have these module overviews. So I'll just jump into module 2 here, where you can actually see that in our module we have an overview and purpose. So we let students we prime them for what they're going to be doing in that particular course. And we also state what those objectives are, and then we also state what those learning activities are. Of course, these little work, these are not the most measurable, so kudos to anyone who might have caught on to that. But overall, since we're not looking at if the objectives are measurable in this case, we're just looking to see what that relationship is. This would count as showing that relationship. And then going back to the modules, another thing that we do to kind of indicate the relationship between activities and objectives and learning materials is in our actual assignments. So if we go to the first reflection, you'll see that we actually list what the learning outcomes are that are being addressed by or being connected to that particular assignment. We list up those learning objectives here. And then to further show that relationship between instructional materials and the assessments or activities, we actually list out all of the different learning materials that support success on this activity. So a student could come back to this assignment. If they need additional help, if they want a refresher before they get started, they can click on any one of these to be directed to their learning materials. Something else that we do that does help kind of indicate what supports what is we do use that module format where everything in module 2 is supporting module 2. So this overview kind of goes over all of this, but you can see that through the pathway that they would take, that they would read the learning materials, and that is going to support then completing these items here. So that's something that we'd be looking for in your courses as well. As mentioned, a screenshot would be awesome, but even if you just have like a very clear narrative of how you're doing this, then of course, if you're not doing something, if you're not addressing it, just let us know what you'd like to do in the future. Thanks so much.